Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that feels a bit self-destructive, honestly.
It does, doesn't it? There's a certain anxiety built into just starting this conversation.
Right. We're diving into the stack of really unique sources. They document a disorder, apparently, that's so self-aware, so recursive.
That talking about it might mean we have it.
Exactly. The very act of discussing it right here, right now, it feels like we're walking right into the trap.
And these sources, they come from a listener detailing this group, the Talkoholics.
Yeah.
An independent audio support group.
Yeah, and their whole premise is they literally cannot stop referencing, analyzing, critiquing each other's work, other hosts' work.
We've got the foundational text, this clinical pamphlet, and also a transcript. A pretty agonizing, powerful address from one of their members, Plunky Fluckerdiddles.
Plunky Fluckerdiddles. Okay, so our mission isn't just a summary, right? We want to do a quick but really comprehensive exploration of this audio plague.
But the hook, the challenge, is built right in. How do you talk about content that is explicitly, fundamentally, about the failure to stop discussing content?
It feels like peering into an echo chamber, that deep, echoing wall of independent audio where all you hear is hosts talking about hosts, talking about hosts.
Yeah, that persistent self-referential hum. It just seems to define that whole ecosystem.
And Plunky Fluckerdiddles, you mentioned, they describe it not just as a habit, but a crippling dependency.
Exactly. It's not like they choose this topic. It's presented as the inescapable fabric of their professional, maybe even personal, lives.
So to really grasp the gravity here, we have to start with the clinical stuff, right? The definitions, because they paint a pretty terrifying picture of creative atrophy.
Let's do that. Let's unpack the official terminology first.
Okay, so right on the front of this pamphlet, the term is talkaholism.
Talkaholism. It sounds almost playful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like just liking to chat a lot.
Right, like an addiction to conversation. But then you see the clinical identifier, and it snaps you back to reality.
Podcast or obsessive discourse disorder.
Or PODD, mercifully.
Yes, PODD. And that's where the seriousness sits. The official definition is, well, it's quite clinical. Cold, almost.
How does it define it?
It calls talkaholism an acute, uncontrollable, and chronic urge among podcast hosts to produce content dedicated exclusively, and that word is key, exclusively to the analysis, critique, or discussion of other podcast hosts' discourse.
Exclusively. Wow, that feels like a creative death sentence.
It really does, because it highlights the immediate consequence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Your creative output is just completely divorced from anything original, anything external.
The source material really hammers this home, the impact on their lives.
Oh, it's catastrophic for originality, according to these documents.
Yeah.
They define the hosts by what they can't do anymore.
Like what can't they do?
Well, the pamphlet explicitly states Talkoholics can't do gardening, meaning they can't make content about, plants or soil.
Yeah.
They can't do deep dives on ancient history. They seem only able to dive deep into, I'm quoting here, Chad's latest upload strategy or the semantic implications of Sarah's show notes.
So their whole intellectual world just collapses inward. It becomes this inescapable, self-referential cul-de-sac.
So that's exactly the picture it taints.
And what's really fascinating, maybe deeply troubling, is this paradox around seeking help.
Ah, yes. This might be the most painful part of the diagnosis described here. The documentation notes this pathology is inextricably linked to an equally strong and uncontrollable compulsion to attend the very support groups established to address it.
Wait a second. So if the disorder is the compulsion to discuss the discourse of your peers, then the support group, which is literally a room full of peers discussing their discourse about the disorder,
becomes the perfect breeding ground for the disorder.
it perpetuates it. It doesn't heal it. Seeking help actually sustains the problem.
Precisely. They're caught. It's this self-defeating recursive loop, the therapeutic setting itself, which needs them to talk about their condition, their habit.
It just gives them fresh material, new grist for the mill.
Exactly. It provides this new, incredibly rich vein of source material for their illness. So the compulsion to seek help is there, but the content of that help just reinforces the disease.
So every meeting isn't just therapy.
It's pre-production for next week's metacritique. That's the implication.
Wow. Okay, but before we get completely swallowed by the existential dread here, there's a footnote, a really curious one in the pamphlet.
Ah, the taco trap confusion, yes.
The taco trap confusion. What is that about? It sounds like something you need to clarify immediately.
It seems they felt it was vital, yeah, for the medical record, as they put it. The pamphlet emphasizes bold caps that tacoholism has nothing to do with tacos.
Okay. Why? Why tacos? Was there like a history of people showing up to Talkoholics Anonymous expecting lunch?
It's not explicitly stated why tacos, but it really speaks to this need for diagnostic clarity, maybe. They have to draw this super clean line between the PODD and the purely voluntary.
So how do they distinguish it?
They offer a direct clinical distinction. The disorder is not to be confused with tacoisms,
Tacoisms.
defined simply as the voluntary consumption of taco-based meals. It seems the clinical need for absolute clarity just outweighed how slightly absurd the confusion might seem.
But then the source uses this moment. It gets almost profound about tacos. It's this weirdly beautiful little aside.
It really is, isn't it? Amidst all this darkness about recursive loops, tacos, the source material says, are excellent, a shining light in the darkness of the void.
A shining light.
And my favorite part, the food of the gods.
The food of the gods. It's like the taco is the last piece of tangible, positive, external reality they can hold on to.
Maybe. Maybe philosophically, it represents the absolute opposite of the void they're in. It's delicious, it's non-meta, it's an anchor point. Clinically unrelated, but maybe existentially vital.
Okay, so the big takeaway from the clinical definitions. PODD isn't just a bad habit, it's pathological. It's this overriding compulsion. It wipes out original thought.
And the very systems designed to help, like the support groups, are structurally co-opted to just feed the cycle.
Right, it's built to fail.
Which sets the stage perfectly for the symptoms. And, if you, the listener, feel a little twitch hearing these, maybe a flicker of recognition in your own media habits.
Uh-oh.
You might be closer to that Talkoholics room than you think.
The pamphlet lists 3 main indicators,
Okay.
and they should, frankly, terrify any content creator who cares about making anything new.
Okay, lay them on us. Symptom 1.
Atopicality.
Atopicality, right, which is
The complete inability to generate or sustain conversation on subjects outside of media meta-commentary.
so it's not just that they prefer talking about other hosts.
No. It's that they are pathologically incapable of sustaining anything else. It's presented as a total failure of intellectual scope.
How does that play out? The source material says, if they try to discuss, say, historical events, hobbies, current affairs, the conversation just instantly pivots. It snaps back.
So, talking about, I don't know, a current political thing.
Lasts maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Then the host starts critiquing how some rival host Y covered that same event, or why host X used that specific headline font for their summary. The actual event just vanishes.
It becomes secondary to the performance of the analysis itself. Wow. That's a terrifying loss of creative sovereignty.
Imagine, a history podcaster starts an episode on the Peloponnesian War.
Right. Big topic.
Only to spend the whole hour critiquing another host's sound effect choice when they discuss the Battle of Syracuse. The war itself, irrelevant.
So why? Why does this happen? The source suggests it's like a fear.
A fear of exposure, maybe. Original thought is risky, right? You put yourself out there, critiquing others, analyzing their work. It's inherently safer. You're shielded.
So the talkaholic becomes reliant on other people's output as a kind of shield against vulnerability.
That seems to be the implication.
Okay. Symptom 2.
They call it obsessive tracing.
Obsessive tracing.
This is the constant, almost crippling need to trace the lineage of whatever discourse is happening right now back to its absolute originator.
Okay, hang on. Isn't that just good practice sometimes? Like citing your sources, understanding context. We do that. Are we saying all tracing is pathological?
That's the crucial distinction the pamphlet tries to make. Legitimate sourcing, it argues, adds context to the subject matter. Obsessive tracing replaces the subject matter entirely.
How so?
So if two hosts are arguing about, say, background music, the talkaholic suffering from obsessive tracing can't just evaluate the music choice. They feel compelled to spend an entire episode identifying the original Chad equivalent.
The first guy.
The very first host, maybe 8 years ago, whoever publicly agonized over needing a specific ambient track.
So they spend so much time tracing the history of the complaint.
That the original topic, like, is the music good? Does it work? It just vanishes. The tracing isn't about understanding reality better. It's about validating the need to keep talking about the talking.
It's like academic rigor applied recursively to the most trivial digital spats.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it.
And the third symptom, this sounds ominous, the inevitable collapse.
Yeah. Plunky apparently described this as the point where they knew the disorder wasn't just mental but almost physical.
The inevitable collapse. What happens?
It happens when the host, maybe they have a moment of clarity, a flicker of hope. They try to record something non-meta.
Like the gardening episode.
Exactly. Let's stick with gardening. They set up the mic. They're ready to talk about soil aeration. But the internal pathological mechanism, the PODD, is apparently so strong
That the effort just collapses.
immediately into, quote, a 10-minute critique of a rival host's production decisions. They try to talk about soil, but end up ranting about someone else's microphone preamp.
So you try to plant a seed, metaphorically, but instead you just complain about another podcaster's Patreon strategy.
Or their overly aggressive monetization, yeah. The host realizes, mid-sentence maybe, they're still talking about media, not reality.
Is that creative originality dead then?
Yeah.
Or just dormant? Can they get it back?
Plunky's take, according to this transcript, is that it's an effective death. The muscle for original, non-referential thought just atrophies.
Because the reliance on meta-content isn't just a preference.
It's that crippling dependency again. It just overrides any attempt to find or explore something external. It's a pathological override. The creator becomes a machine solely designed to process other creators.
Okay, that's bleak. We need to move from the clinical notes now, I think, to the visceral, the anecdotal horror. Because nothing really illustrates this, like, Plunky Fluckerdiddle's own story, their journey into that, what do they call it? Terrible, wonderful room of the support group.
Yeah, Plunky's address really gives us the narrative spine of this whole affliction. They talk about being a regular, functional talkaholic for years.
Meaning, they made a living doing this, just meta content.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Just pure meta content, before they grasped the full horror of it all. The mise en abîme, the infinite regression.
I thought the problem was just toxic hosts.
Yeah, initially. But then realized the problem was the system, the self-sustaining system they were actively feeding.
And the catalyst, the thing that made them hit rock bottom.
Mm.
It was very specific. A Tuesday.
Ah, yes, that Tuesday. It's immortalized in the transcript. It wasn't a slow drift into realization. It sounds like it was an abrupt, horrifying moment of clarity.
What happened on the Tuesday?
Plunky recounted spending 8 straight hours.
Yeah.
8 hours. Compiling a 40-point critique.
40 points. Okay, that's thorough. A critique of what?
That's the rock bottom part. Plunky was critiquing host Sarah's tone.
Just her tone.
Her tone. When she discussed host John's use of an emoji in his show notes.
An emoji?
Which itself was a reaction to host Chad's colon usage in an episode title.
Oh my God. Okay, let me trace that back. Chad used a colon. John reacted with an emoji. Sarah talked about John's emoji using a certain tone, and Plunky spent 8 hours writing 40 points about Sarah's tone.
Yes. That's 5 layers removed from anything resembling original subject matter. The original thing was punctuation.
That's academic rigor applied to the lint found in the navel of the discourse.
The absurdity is the point, I think. Plunky describes working on this critique with total intellectual justification at the time. They felt they were doing important work, providing necessary meta-commentary on, the structural failures of digital communication.
But then something snapped.
The feedback loop realization hit. Apparently, Plunky's spouse, or maybe it was a pet, the source isn't clear. Someone asked what this monumental 8-hour project was actually about.
And Plunky couldn't explain it.
Couldn't summarize the 40 points without immediately starting to analyze the act of summarizing itself. They got stuck.
Right.
Trapped in the performance of communicating the analysis of the analysis of the analysis.
And that's where the stammer comes in.
That's where we get the classic quote, the stammer of the afflicted. I'm talking about the talking.
Wow.
That moment of just linguistic collapse. That was the self-diagnosis, realizing they'd become a human feedback loop. A self-contained content machine whose only output was analyzing its own processing.
That level of terror. Okay, I can see how that would lead you to seek help.
Yeah.
To find the support group.
Which Plunky did.
Right.
And initially there was that sweet hit of relief, that false hope.
Community, people who get it, people who understand this specific bizarre pain.
Exactly. They can help me achieve abstinence. But tragically, the relief was very short-lived.
How short?
Plunky noted the room quickly turned into a new, greater horror.
Mm-hmm.
It lasted, according to the source.
10 minutes.
10 minutes. That's how long the piece lasted. What happened? What triggered the collapse this time?
Someone in the group, probably an advanced talkaholic, Plunky implies. They immediately started analyzing the group's own meeting structure.
Yeah. The chairs, the schedule, the way the pamphlet was designed. Analyzing it all as a commentary on the hierarchical structures of other support groups they used to belong to.
Oh, no.
And the room apparently erupted. Plunky calls it a passionate, highly technical, and completely recursive defense of our meeting's format.
So the group, the one place meant to be a break from the meta talk,
Instantly became the subject of highly specific meta talk about the group's own internal workings.
Plunky must have realized right then this wasn't the solution.
Exactly. This was just a third inescapable recursive trap. The system analyzing the system that was set up to analyze the system. The disease had literally eaten its own cure.
It just confirmed that pathological override, it's constant. Gathering to talk about not talking just creates new content for the talking. That flat, circular track is inescapable.
Which brings us right to the core mechanism of the sickness, what Plunky calls the recursive vertigo.
Recursive vertigo. Okay, and the key point here is that it's not tiered. Like the layers are an illusion.
Exactly. Plunky emphasizes that. The perceived depth. Yeah, I'm analyzing the analysis of the analysis.
Yeah.
It's just an illusion. Everyone is on the same terrifyingly flat, circular track.
Chasing their own tails and calling it intellectual rigor.
That's the metaphor, yeah. And it dismisses any idea that one talkaholic is somehow more sophisticated or deeper than another. The sickness is democratic. Everyone's equally stuck.
So Plunky gives an example to make this crystal clear, right? This 4-stage loop.
Yes, involving Chad, Sarah, John, and Plunky themselves.
Yeah.
It shows how the loop immediately collapses and restarts. It's quite detailed.
Okay, let's trace it slowly, step by step. Analyzing the content, but also the justification each person probably had.
Right. Stage 1, the spark. This is Chad.
Chad, the originator in this instance.
Chad records the original Fuel. It's a self-involved, yes, but technically original solo episode. It's called The Deep Art of Episode Titling.
Okay. Driven.
He spends 30 minutes agonizing over using a colon versus an M dash in his next title. He's talking about his own process. It's meta, but it's about his work. This is the seed.
Right, the initial meta content seed. Then stage 2, the immediate reflection. Sarah listens.
Sarah listens. She doesn't care about the dash itself, but she finds Chad's agonizing over the dash to be symptomatic of bad decision-making.
Ah, so she pathologizes his focus.
Exactly. She records an episode analyzing his dash usage, but then pivots. She concludes the superficial focus proves his Patreon tiers are actually unethical, a poorly thought-out cash grab.
So she leaps from punctuation analysis to an ethical critique of his business model. But the subject is still Chad.
Still Chad. And her justification, she probably believes she's performing a vital service, exposing unethical monetization in the creator economy. She has the moral high ground, she thinks. She's not talking about the person talking.
Okay. Stage 3, the reflexive echo. John enters the chat.
John listens to Sarah's episode about Chad. Now, John doesn't care about the ethics, doesn't care about the dash. What bothers him is that Sarah is now just as self-referential as Chad was.
Ah, the metacritic becomes the meta subject.
Precisely. So John records an entire episode analyzing Sarah's tone and her specific choice of the word bespoke when she was criticizing Chad's tears.
Bespoke. Okay, now we're really in the weeds. What's John's justification?
Linguistic correction, maybe semantic purity. He sees Sarah's word choice bespoke as performative language that actually undermines her own supposed ethical stance.
So he's doing semantic analysis on Sarah's critique of Chad's ethics regarding his punctuation obsession.
He is talking about the person talking about the person talking, yes.
Which leads us inevitably to stage 4, the Plunky plunge.
Plunky listens to John, and now Plunky ignores the original dash entirely, ignores the ethics of Chad's tears, ignores Sarah's tone and her use of bespoke.
What's left to analyze?
John's intentions. Plunky spends an hour dissecting John's commentary style and analyzing why John felt compelled to analyze Sarah's tone and word choice in the first place.
So Plunky's justification is psychological analysis.
Yeah.
Digging into the core motivation of the critic.
That seems to be it. Why is John doing what he's doing? Plunky believes they're getting to the root cause.
And the title of Plunky's resulting content, it's almost poetry, isn't it?
It really sums it up. The semantic sin of bespoke. Deconstructing Sarah's performative language, as discussed by John.
Plunky is now talking about the person talking about the person talking about the person talking. 4 levels deep, but really, just back at the start.
And that's the inescapable horror Plunky highlights. The loop doesn't end with Plunky.
Of course not.
The second Plunky hits, publish on that analysis.
It becomes the subject for the next talkaholic down the line. Maybe someone analyzing Plunky's use of the phrase semantic sin.
Exactly. The loop instantly collapses and restarts.
So everyone is simultaneously Chad, the originator, Sarah, the moral critic, John, the linguistic watchdog, and Plunky, the psychological dissector.
All at the same time, trapped together on that flat, circular track where perceived depth is just the illusion created by running really, really fast in circles.
Wow, okay, so this sickness, this PODD, it forces them right up against this huge philosophical problem, doesn't it? The infinite paradox.
It does. And their chosen solution, the support group, is actually structurally designed to be their biggest trap. It embodies the paradox.
How so? The core rule seemed simple enough.
Deceptively simple. The rule was, in this room, we only talk about what we talk about. We do not talk about Chad or any host like him.
The idea being force a pivot away from critiquing others towards personal feeling or the immediate group dynamic, perhaps?
That was likely the intention. But Plunky immediately flags this rule as the joke, the source of their infinite, delightful despair.
Why delightful despair? That sounds uniquely awful.
Because the moment you try to enforce that rule,
Yeah.
what becomes the subject of the meeting?
The rule itself. And why people can't follow it. And whether the rule is fair. And how Chad would feel about the rule.
Exactly. The subject instantly becomes the rule. The inability to follow it, the meta-discussion about the rule,
Yeah.
they can't escape.
And we learn the group is structured like a multi-step program, like AA or something.
Yeah, the pamphlet apparently promotes it as a proven framework for healing. 12 steps, presumably, or something similar. But Plunky points out the terrible reality.
The steps go on forever.
You might as well. Because they're too busy talking about the theoretical infinite nature of the steps themselves. The meta-analysis of the recovery process gets in the way of actually doing the recovery process.
They can't finish step 2 because they're locked in a debate about the philosophical implications of step 11.
Pretty much. It's a procedural feedback loop. And this structural sickness plays out instantly if someone actually tries to do the therapeutic work, like confessing.
Right. You mentioned this. If Sarah tries to confess, I almost slipped up. I almost recorded a critique of host X.
The group doesn't offer support, like, that's tough, Sarah. Stay strong. No.
What do?
They immediately start analyzing why. Why did Sarah feel compelled to analyze host X? What does that compulsion reveal about the current state of anxiety within the Talkoholic community as a whole? What does it say about their group dynamic that Sarah felt safe enough or unsafe enough to confess?
They analyze the metacompulsion itself.
Thereby perpetuating the disease right there in the supposed recovery room. It's perfectly designed to fail.
And this recursive pattern, this is where the source explicitly brings in that artistic term.
Mis einer Beam, yes.
Yeah.
Placed in the abyss.
Which is that technique, like the Drost effect on the Cocoa Box, right? A picture within the picture within the picture.
An image or story placed within a smaller copy of itself, leading to this dizzying infinite regression. A mirror reflecting a mirror reflecting a mirror.
And Plunky applies this directly to the support group.
Perfectly. The group, which was supposed to stop the meta-discourse, has just become, functionally, a weekly, hour-long podcast about the podcast we don't want to host.
They're trapped by the very structure of their own recovery mechanism. They are the mirror reflecting the mirror. There's no way to shatter it from the inside.
And the conclusion Plunky draws from this, it's stark.
The only way out
is to just stop talking.
Yeah.
Absolute, total creative silence. Shut down the mic.
But that's impossible for them, right? Their entire existence, their livelihood, their identity, perhaps, is built on not being silent, on analyzing, on talking.
It's an impossible ask. And this realization leads Plunky to break the fourth wall entirely.
Moving from diagnosing the group to diagnosing, well, us. People consuming and analyzing this content right now.
Exactly. Plunky realizes their lecture, this very document we're discussing. It isn't an escape hatch, it's just another artifact. Another piece of content destined to be consumed and analyzed by people exactly like them.
Plunky sees it playing out in real time. They predict our actions.
Yeah. Our self-diagnosis is not the end of the sickness, Plunky states. It is the source of the next plague. Our discussion is the next iteration of the loop. #outro.
Which brings us, inevitably, to Plunky Fluckerdiddle's final warning. It feels less like a warning now and more like a diagnosis delivered directly to us.
It's a direct address, isn't it? To the podcast hosts, maybe even the listeners, who, against all the clinical advice we've just discussed, have spent this time analyzing their talk.
Plunky basically looks right through the microphone, through the document, and says,
To the podcast hosts, you who are talking about me and my talk right now, I see you.
Chilling. They see the engagement this creates. They anticipate the hot take on Plunky's tone, the critique of the name Fluckerdiddles, the analysis of our analysis.
And the core message is just devastatingly simple. It cuts right through any intellectual justification we might try to build for ourselves.
You are not reviewing me.
You are reviewing yourself. Woof.
Yeah, and the outcome is stated like it's already happened, a prophecy fulfilled by the sound of our voices, right now.
The minute you click record to talk about this support group's efforts to stop talking about each other,
You become me. You become Chad.
we did it. In the very act of analyzing the Talkoholics, we've pathologically confirmed the diagnosis in ourselves in real time. It's the ultimate terrifying success of the recursive loop.
Is there any hope? Did Plunky offer anything? Or is it just despair?
There's one tiny glimmer, something the clinical pamphlet can't quantify, something that apparently keeps the mic on, even facing this doom.
What is it?
It's the solidarity, the shared terror. Misery loves company, but here the company is the misery, and maybe that's something.
We are doing it together, Plunky concludes. That's what keeps the mic on. The only thing worse than being trapped in the loop is being trapped alone, maybe, with no one left to critique.
So we have to leave you, the listener, with Plunky's final piece of advice, knowing everything we now know, having basically diagnosed ourselves live on air.
The advice is, don't do it, don't make the meta-commentary.
But you will.
Oh, the certainty. But you will, and when we do, when you, listening, inevitably sit down to record that critique, that analysis of this deep dive.
Plunky just asks one thing. Please, for the love of all that is decent, at least eat a good taco first.
Get some external reality in you before you dive back into the abyss.
Maybe that's the takeaway. As you go back to your own listening, your own creating, think about the content loops you're in. Are you stuck in that recursive vertigo?
Or is your consumption, your creation, moving you closer to something real, something tangible? Closer, perhaps, to the food of the gods?
Thank you for joining us for this
Yeah.
highly self-aware, deeply self-referential deep dive.
We genuinely look forward to the inevitable critiques of this very analysis next week. We're already planning our response episode. The cycle continues.